She said the head nurse hates me.
I do not hate her.
Back up a bit. She said I had an unhappy love affair. She said it was your priest.
For 11 seasons, the cast of m.a.s.h brought us into their world of chaos, comedy, and friendship. They started to feel like our friends, our family. We laughed right alongside Hawkeye, we respected Colonel Potter, and we felt every single bit of the heartache and hope that filled their olive-drab world. Think about it, the show's finale was the most-watched scripted TV event in history. That's how much these characters meant to us, but what happened after the cameras stopped rolling and the final goodbyes were said? The actors who brought these characters to life went on with their own journeys. And for many of them, their final chapters were just as compelling, and in some cases, just as tragic, as the stories they told on screen. Today, we're honoring the legacies of the iconic m.a.s.h cast members who are no longer with us. We'll explore the true stories of their final days and celebrate the incredible lives they lived. From the main stars to the memorable faces who made the 4077th feel real, this is the real-life farewell to our heroes. For the first 3 seasons of m.a.s.h, McLean Stevenson really was the heart of the 4077th. As Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake, he was the bumbling, lovable, and ultimately tragic leader of the unit. The way he played the reluctant commander, who always seemed more interested in fishing than in military rules, made millions of us fall in love with him. Blake's office, with its dartboard and ever-present liquor, was a little slice of sanity in the middle of all that madness. Stevenson just had this unique warmth and perfect comedic timing that made his characters exit one of the most shocking moments in TV history. Born in Normal, Illinois, Stevenson actually came from a medical family. His sister was a nurse and his dad was a cardiologist. You'd think he'd follow that path, but he first tried a career in politics. The pull of showbiz was just too strong, though. He worked in TV production and wrote for a few shows before he found his true calling as an actor. And his big break, of course, was m.a.s.h, where he became an instant fan favorite, but even with all the success, Stevenson got restless. He felt like his character was always playing second fiddle to Hawkeye and Trapper John, and he really wanted a leading role of his own. So, he asked to be let out of his contract. The writers gave Henry Blake a send-off that absolutely no one saw coming. In the final, gut-wrenching scene of the season 3 finale, Abyssinia, Henry, Radar walks into the OR and announces that Blake's plane was shot down over the Sea of Japan, and there were no survivors. The cast famously didn't know about that scene until just before they filmed it, so their shock on screen was completely real. After leaving m.a.s.h, Stevenson really struggled to find that kind of success again. He starred in a bunch of sitcoms that didn't last long, like The McLean Stevenson Show and Hello, Larry. Sadly, none of them captured the magic of his time at the 4077th. He later said he regretted his decision to leave the show that made him a star. On February 15, 1996, at 68 years old, McLean Stevenson had a fatal heart attack. It was a terribly sad echo of his character's fate, a sudden, unexpected loss for his family, friends, and the millions of fans who never forgot the good-natured Colonel Blake. Every hero needs a villain, right? And for the first 5 seasons of m.a.s.h, that villain was the perfectly pompous and hilariously incompetent Major Frank Burns. Larry Linville's portrayal of the arrogant, by-the-book surgeon was just a masterclass in how to be a comedic bad guy. Ferret Face, as Hawkeye and Trapper loved to call him, was their constant thorn in the side. His patriotic rants and his affair with Major Houlihan gave us endless laughs. Born in Ojai, California, Linville was actually a classically trained actor who studied at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London. But it was his role as Frank Burns that really made his career. He played the character so perfectly that you just couldn't help but love to hate him. He was the guy everyone rooted against, but the show just wouldn't have been the same without him. After 5 seasons, Linville felt he'd done all he could with the character. Frank Burns was pretty one-dimensional, and as Loretta Swit's character, Margaret, started to become more complex, there wasn't much room left for Frank to grow. Linville chose not to renew his contract, and Major Burns was written out of the show in a way that was perfectly frank. He had a mental breakdown and got shipped back to the States. After m.a.s.h, Linville worked steadily in TV, with guest spots on shows like The Love Boat and Murder, she wrote. He also went back to the theater, which was his first love. He always spoke fondly of his time on the show, even though he was often typecast as the kind of blustering fool he had played so well. In 1998, Linville was diagnosed with lung cancer. He had surgery to remove part of his lung but suffered from complications. On April 10, 2000, at the age of 60, Larry Linville died from pneumonia related to his cancer surgery. His castmates remembered him not as an antagonist, but as a kind and professional colleague. He left behind a legacy as one of TV's most memorable and wonderfully detestable characters. As the original partner in crime to Hawkeye Pierce, Captain, Trapper, John McIntyre was the other half of that wisecracking, martini-guzzling duo that made the early years of m.a.s.h so special. Wayne Rogers brought this laid-back charm and a devilish grin to the role, and it was the perfect complement to Alan Alda's more hyper energy. Trapper was a brilliant surgeon, a loyal friend, and a relentless flirt, and his chemistry with Hawkeye was pure gold. Born in Birmingham, Alabama, Rogers was a Princeton grad with a history degree. He even served in the U.S. Navy before he got into acting. He was working steadily, but then he landed the role of Trapper John. Over time, though, Rogers grew frustrated that the show was focusing more and more on Hawkeye. He felt that his character, who was a co-lead in the original book and movie, was being turned into a sidekick. When the producers wanted him to sign a morals clause, he refused and left the show after the third season. His exit was sudden. There was no goodbye for Trapper. In the season 4 premiere, we just learn he's been discharged and sent home. After m.a.s.h, Rogers found incredible success, not just as an actor, but as a brilliant businessman and investor. He starred in the series House Calls, but his real passion turned to finance. He became a well-respected real estate developer and a regular face on the Fox News stock show Cashin' In. Turns out, he was just as sharp in the boardroom as he was in the 4077th operating room. On December 31, 2015, Wayne Rogers died at the age of 82 from complications of pneumonia. He left the show early, sure, but his impact on the legacy of m.a.s.h is undeniable. He was one half of one of the greatest comedy duos in TV history, and his version of Trapper John is still a huge part of the show's charm. When Colonel Blake was gone, the 4077th needed a new commander, and boy, did they find a great one in the firm but fair Colonel Sherman T. Potter. Harry Morgan joined the cast in Season 4, and what could have been a tough transition felt completely seamless. Colonel Potter was a career Army man, a horse soldier, with a no-nonsense attitude and a deep love for his wife, Mildred, and his horse, Sophie. He was the father figure the unit so desperately needed, a steady hand who could control the chaos without crushing the spirit of his team. Born in Detroit, Harry Morgan had a huge career long before he ever stepped into that fictional Korean war zone. He was a character actor with hundreds of credits, most famously as Officer Bill Gannon in the Dragnet series. He brought a lifetime of experience to the role of Colonel Potter and became the anchor of the show for its final 8 seasons, even winning an Emmy for his performance in 1980. Morgan's portrayal was just filled with warmth, humor, and a quiet dignity. Whether he was painting, writing letters home, or giving a stern lecture, he was completely believable as the veteran commander who'd seen it all. His classic lines, like "horse feathers" and "mule fritters," became part of the m.a.s.h dictionary. After m.a.s.h, Morgan played Colonel Potter again in the spin-off After m.a.s.h. He kept acting for a while, but Colonel Potter was always his most iconic role. In his later years, he enjoyed a quiet retirement. On December 7, 2011, Harry Morgan died peacefully in his sleep at his L.A. home from complications of pneumonia. He was 96 years old. His long life was a testament to a career well lived, and his role as Colonel Potter remains one of the most beloved in TV history. In the middle of all the chaos, the cynicism, and the martinis, Father Francis Mulcahy was the moral compass of the 4077th, played with such gentle sincerity by William Christopher. Father Mulcahy was the soft-spoken chaplain who tended to the spiritual needs of the camp. He often showed a quiet strength that was much bigger than his mild-mannered personality suggested. Though he started as a recurring character, he quickly became a core part of the cast, a symbol of faith and humanity in a very inhumane world. Born in Evanston, Illinois, William Christopher had a background in theater and had roles on shows like Gomer Pyle, m.a.s.h, before joining m.a.s.h. The part of Father Mulcahy was actually recast after the pilot, and Christopher truly made it his own. He was often the calm in the storm, offering a kind ear or a word of encouragement to a tired soldier or a stressed-out surgeon. His performance was subtle, but so powerful. He showed us that strength doesn't always have to be loud. Whether he was organizing a drive for the local orphanage, learning to box to prove a point, or struggling with his own feelings of being useless in a war, he brought such a deep humanity to the role. Outside of acting, Christopher was a devoted family man. He and his wife, Barbara, were incredible advocates for autism awareness, inspired by their son, Ned. They even wrote a book together about their experiences called Mixed Blessings. On New Year's Eve, December 31, 2016, William Christopher passed away at his home in Pasadena at the age of 84. The cause was non-lung small cell carcinoma. In a strange twist of fate, his death happened exactly 1 year after his co-star Wayne Rogers passed away. He left behind a legacy of kindness, both on and off the screen, and reminded us all of the quiet, enduring power of the human spirit. When Larry Linville's Frank Burns left, m.a.s.h had some big shoes to fill. The show needed a new foil for Hawkeye and BJ, but the creators didn't want a simple copy of Frank. They found the absolute perfect replacement in Major Charles Emerson Winchester III, a blue-blooded, Harvard-educated surgeon who was everything Frank Burns wasn't: cultured, brilliant, and a worthy opponent. David Ogden Stiers brought this theatrical weight and razor-sharp wit to the role, creating one of TV's most unforgettable characters. Born in Peoria, Illinois, Stiers was a Juilliard-trained actor with a deep love for classical music. As Major Winchester, he was the perfect contrast to the jesters in the swamp. His snobbery clashed hilariously with the grim reality of war. But Winchester wasn't a one-note character. Stiers gave him this deep humanity that was slowly revealed over time. We saw his vulnerability and his profound sadness at the wastefulness of war, especially in the episode Death Takes a Holiday, where he's devastated by the death of a soldier on Christmas Day. Stiers' performance was incredible. He could be outrageously pompous one moment and heartbreakingly poignant the next. His rich, booming voice made every line of dialogue a treat. He earned 2 Emmy nominations for his work on the show. After m.a.s.h, Stiers had a huge career as a voice actor. You'd recognize his distinctive baritone anywhere. He was Cogsworth in Disney's Beauty and the Beast and Governor Ratcliffe in Pocahontas. He also continued acting in TV and was even an associate conductor for a symphony orchestra in Oregon. On March 3, 2018, David Ogden Stiers died at his home in Newport, Oregon, at the age of 75. The cause was complications from bladder cancer. He left behind a legacy of brilliant performances. As Charles Emerson Winchester III, he created a character who was so much more than just a replacement. He was a vital, unforgettable part of the m.a.s.h family. As the formidable Major Margaret "Hot Lips" Houlihan, Loretta Swit created one of the most iconic female characters in television history. For 11 seasons, she was the ultimate professional, the head nurse who demanded respect and ran her unit with an iron fist. Swit, along with Alan Alda, was one of only 2 cast members to be in both the first and last episodes, and her character's evolution was one of the show's most amazing journeys. Born in Passaic, New Jersey, Swit was a trained stage actress before she was cast. At first, the character was a bit of a one-dimensional bad guy and Frank Burns's love interest. But Swit fought for her character to be more than that. She worked with the writers to turn Margaret into a complex, multi-layered woman who was strong, vulnerable, and fiercely independent. The moment the writers started calling her Margaret, instead of Hot Lips, was a real turning point for the show. Swit's performance was groundbreaking. She portrayed a woman thriving in a man's world, a dedicated professional who was also a deeply feeling person. She won 2 Emmy Awards for her portrayal, which was well-deserved recognition for her talent. After m.a.s.h., Swit stayed active in TV and theater. She also became a dedicated animal rights activist and a talented artist. She was always a beloved figure for m.a.s.h. fans, attending reunions and speaking fondly of her time on the show. On May 30, 2025, Loretta Swit passed away at her home in New York City at the age of 87. Her death was attributed to natural causes. The news was met with an outpouring of grief. Alan Alda paid tribute to her, saying, "She worked hard in showing the writing staff how they could turn the character from a one-joke sexist stereotype into a real person." Loretta Swit's legacy is that of a trailblazer, an actress who took a character and turned her into a television icon. For 167 episodes, Kelly Nakahara was a constant, comforting presence as Nurse Kelly. She started as a background extra who didn't even have lines and evolved into a beloved recurring character with her own personality. Her warmth, humor, and unwavering skill made her a true fan favorite. Born on Oahu, Hawaii, Nakahara actually moved to San Francisco to be an artist. Acting came later, and her role on m.a.s.h. became her most famous. Her natural charm caught the eye of the producers, and soon she was getting more lines and even her own showcase episode, Hey, Look Me Over, where she movingly confronts Hawkeye for always overlooking her. Her performance just goes to show you, there are no small parts. She brought a genuine sweetness and quiet strength to Nurse Kelly that made her a real, relatable part of the hospital. After m.a.s.h., Nakahara kept acting in movies like Clue and Dr. Dolittle. She also went back to her first love, art, and became a successful watercolor painter. She stayed close with her m.a.s.h. castmates, and always said they were her second family. On February 16, 2020, Kelly Nakahara passed away peacefully at her Pasadena home at the age of 72, after a battle with peritoneal cancer. Her death was mourned by fans who had come to love the gentle and dependable Nurse Kelly, a character who proved that even in the chaos of war, a quiet presence can make a huge impact. In the busy, chaotic OR, there were a lot of dedicated nurses who, while not always in the spotlight, were a huge part of the show's authentic feel. One of the most recognizable was Nurse Abel, played by Judy Farrell. She only appeared in 8 episodes, but she was a memorable part of the show's family. Born in Quapaw, Oklahoma, Judy Farrell had a very unique connection to the show. For 20 years, she was married to Mike Farrell, who played B.J. Honeycutt. Her role as Nurse Abel was just one part of her career. She also became a writer for the soap opera Port Charles. Her time on m.a.s.h. was a special chapter, acting alongside her then-husband on such an iconic series. Her character, Nurse Abel, stood for all the unsung heroes of the medical corps, the dedicated professionals working tirelessly in the background. On April 2, 2023, Judy Farrell passed away at the age of 84 due to complications from a stroke. Her son reported that after the stroke 9 days earlier, she was conscious and could squeeze her family's hands, but she was unable to speak. Her ex-husband, Mike Farrell, remembered her as a beautiful woman, a talented actress and a wonderful writer. Though her role was small, her connection to the m.a.s.h. family ran deep. When the staff of the 4077th needed a drink and a break, they almost always ended up at Rosie's bar. And the heart and soul of that bar was Rosie, the tough-as-nails owner with a sharp business sense and a hidden heart of gold. A few actresses played the role, but it was Eileen Saki who really defined it and made Rosie unforgettable. Born in a Japanese-American internment camp during World War II, Saki's life was one of incredible resilience. She became the final and longest-running actress to play Rosie. She brought this sassy, no-nonsense energy to the role, perfectly capturing the spirit of a survivor who could hold her own against a bunch of rowdy GIs. Her Rosie wasn't just a bartender, she was a friend and a smart businesswoman who knew how to make a living in the middle of a war. after m.a.s.h, she appeared in several other shows and movies, including Splash. In January 2023, Saki was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Just a few months later, on May 1, 2023, Eileen Saki passed away in Los Angeles at the age of 79. It was a sad loss for m.a.s.h fans who loved the feisty owner of Rosie's Bar, a character who provided a much-needed escape for the heroes of the 4077th. Few recurring characters on m.a.s.h were as bizarre, as unpredictable, or as hilariously paranoid as Colonel Flagg. Played with this manic energy by Edward Winter, the eccentric CIA agent would just show up at the 4077th unannounced, on some top-secret mission that usually caused more chaos than anything else. His ridiculous claims, his terrible disguises, and his habit of injuring himself to maintain his cover made for some of the show's funniest moments. Winter brought this wild, over-the-top energy to Colonel Flagg that was somehow both scary and hysterical. Whether he was claiming, "the wind is my only confidant," or breaking his own leg, Flagg was a force of nature. His appearances were always a highlight. His portrayal was so memorable because he played the character's insanity with absolute conviction. He never winked at the audience. He was 100% committed to Flagg's paranoid world, which made his scenes with the regular cast even funnier. After m.a.s.h, Winter continued to work a lot in television. But the role of Colonel Flagg was always his most famous. In his later years, he battled Parkinson's disease. On March 8, 2001, Edward Winter passed away from complications of the disease at the age of 63. He created a character that was completely unique, a whirlwind of comedic chaos. In the very first season of m.a.s.h, we were introduced to the realities of the war through the eyes of a young Korean houseboy named Ho-Jon. Played by Patrick Adiarte, Ho-Jon was the camp's original swamp boy, who worked for Hawkeye and Trapper while dreaming of becoming a doctor. His story was the heart of the pilot episode, as the surgeon schemed to get him sent to America for medical school. Born in the Philippines, Adiarte had a fascinating life. His family was interned by the Japanese during World War II, and his father was killed. After moving to the U.S., he became an incredible dancer. Gene Kelly even called him the next Fred Astaire. He had a successful career on Broadway, starring in shows like The King and I. His role as Ho-Jon, while brief, was so important. He represented the Korean people whose lives were turned upside down by the war. His character brought a sense of innocence and hope to the show's early days. After m.a.s.h, Adiarte continued to act and later became a choreographer. On April 15, 2025, Patrick Adiarte passed away in a Los Angeles hospital at the age of 82 from pneumonia. His passing marked the end of a remarkable life, from a childhood scarred by war to the bright lights of Broadway and the iconic set of m.a.s.h. While we've mourned the loss of so many talented people, it's also important to celebrate the main cast members who are still with us, carrying the torch of the 4077th's legacy. The undisputed heart and soul of m.a.s.h, Alan Alda's Hawkeye Pierce defined the entire series. He was the brilliant, rule-breaking, and deeply compassionate chief surgeon. He appeared in all 256 episodes, the only actor to do so, and won Emmys for acting, writing, and directing the show. Now in his late 80s, Alda is still a vibrant force. He's had an incredible post-m.a.s.h career in movies and shows like The West Wing and Marriage Story. In 2015, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, a challenge he has faced with his typical grace and curiosity. He hosts a popular podcast called Clear Plus Vivid about the art of communication. Alda's legacy isn't just that of a brilliant actor, but of a thoughtful human being who continues to inspire. From a one-episode joke to a beloved main character, Jamie Farr's Maxwell Q. Klinger is one of TV's greatest success stories. He started out wearing a dress to try and get a psychiatric discharge, but his wild outfits and schemes made him a fan favorite. Farr, who actually served in the army in Korea, even wore his own real-life dog tags on the show. Today, at age 90, Jamie Farr is still active and loved by fans. He starred in the spin-off After m.a.s.h and has been in numerous movies and TV shows. His transformation of Klinger from a running gag to a character with real heart and responsibility is a testament to his comedic genius. As the innocent, all-knowing company clerk, Corporal Walter Radar O'Reilly was the true heart of the 4077th. Gary Berghoff, the only actor to come over from the original 1970 movie, brought a totally unique charm to Radar. His creepy ability to know what Colonel Blake was going to say before he said it, his love for his teddy bear, and his gentle nature made him one of the show's most popular characters. Berghoff left the show after the 7th season, worn out by the demanding schedule. His emotional farewell was a landmark moment for the series. Today, at 82, Berghoff has mostly retired from acting to focus on his family and his other passions, like wildlife painting, jazz drumming, and even inventing. He holds a few patents for fishing gear. Though he stepped out of the spotlight, his portrayal of Radar is absolutely iconic. Stepping into the shoes of a beloved character is never easy, but Mike Farrell did it with so much grace. As Captain B.J. Honeycutt, Trapper John's replacement, Farrell created a character who was a loyal friend to Hawkeye and a devoted family man. His mustache, his sharp wit, and his deep moral compass made him the perfect addition to the cast. At 86, Mike Farrell is a respected actor and a passionate activist. He's been a tireless advocate for human rights and social justice. He and Alan Alda are still close friends and get together often to talk about their time in the 4077th. Farrell's legacy is that of a talented actor who used his fame to fight for a better world, a true embodiment of the show's humanitarian spirit. The stories of these actors are such a powerful reminder of the real human beings behind the characters we fell in love with. What are your favorite memories of the m.a.s.h cast? Who was your favorite character and why? Share your thoughts and tributes in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. And if you found this story meaningful, please think about subscribing to the channel for more stories about the golden age of television. The legacy of m.a.s.h is so much more than just a collection of classic episodes or record-breaking ratings. It's about the power of storytelling, and the incredible bond between an audience and characters who really felt like family. The actors who brought the 4077th to life were a special group who created something truly timeless, from the shocking exit of Henry Blake to the dignified goodbye of Colonel Potter, from the slapstick of Frank Burns to the sharp wit of Charles Winchester. Each actor left a permanent mark on the show and on all of us. Their lives off-screen were filled with their own wins and losses, their own quiet joys and their own final farewells. As we remember those who've passed on, we're reminded that the laughter they gave us was often mixed with a deep understanding of what it means to be human. They showed us that even in the darkest of times, there's always room for hope, for friendship, and for a good, dry martini. The lights of the 4077th may have gone out one by one, but the warmth and humanity of the cast of m.a.s.h will shine on forever. Thanks for joining us to remember these television legends.